Ready? All right. Hi, I'm Nicolette, and I would like to talk to you for a few minutes about social isolation, social distancing, and how you may be able to cope with that. This is my kitty cat. We're doing quarantine together. Well, I'm not officially in quarantine, but that's a whole nother story. So I'm going to be petting her while I'm talking. I did do an intro video to this playlist, so I don't want to rehash all the details of my background with chronic illness. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some things that happened to me and how this experience may give you some hope, help you hopefully get a little grounded, and give you some confidence. Because these are uncertain times. So about 2012, 2013, I was living in a different place that I'm living now. And I had a few very difficult times in my isolation. And I didn't have as much ability to Skype with people and do video calls with people. So the isolation was extreme. And there, like, just for an example, a week could go by where I didn't see another human being's face. And that is something that I live with, and I've lived with for many years. It's not a normal way for humans to live, and that is why when humans are punished, they are put in solitary confinement. So I had a few times where the isolation was so profound and so extreme that I was uncertain of how I would be able to cope psychologically and psychically. I'm going to just take a quick pause here because I forgot to do something. I will be right back. Okay. So in the years of illness, there have been times where I've actually been concerned that I would have like a breakdown from the isolation. And it's not a feeling I can really put into words. It's not, for me, it wasn't like anything extreme where I would act in an extreme way. It was more like, I don't even want to say it because it's so like weird. It's so hard to put into words, but mentally I knew like it was difficult and I was very concerned, and it felt scary just because I wasn't sure what was going to eventually happen to my brain. So there were a couple of times where I looked up how to survive solitary confinement because essentially that's what I'd been dealing with. And of course, you know, I'm not in jail. I was never in jail, but having the illness I have, it is very similar to sort of a higher level, a cushier level of solitary confinement. Solitary confinement with breaks, I would say. Um, so about 2012, 2013, I did Google that, how to survive it. And it's not happy stuff. It's not happy stuff to Google. I'm just going to share with you here so you don't have to Google it. So the first thing is when you're solitary, when you're disconnected from other human beings, the first thing you want to nurture and take care of is your mental health and your mental state of being. And just having that awareness is the first step. So you can just say, I am aware that this is not normal, that this is an enormous stress to my brain and my body, that I am socially disengaged. So you have that awareness, and that's your starting point. And from there you can build mechanisms and tools how to cope. Now, one thing I read with coping with solitary confinement, and these are people in extreme conditions, not you and I. You know, these are people in dire confinement, you know, like a one-room cement cell kind of thing, and sometimes with no window. So just to give a perspective, you and I, we have more options for our brain and for our physiology. So just know that you have some things already in place that you can draw on to ensure that your mental health is taken care of. So one thing they said is have a routine, and it can be any kind of routine. There is no rule. This is not like you have to get up and do your dishes. I mean, it's what I do. I often do my dishes first thing in the morning, if I have the energy to do that. It doesn't matter. You can just have some kind of routine. For instance, like for a while, a number of years ago, I thought, like, first thing in the morning I would listen to a comedy show. Or, you know, it could just be very simple. It can be attuned to what you want and what you need. Some people will give you advice about meditation or exercise. You know, I would just tune into yourself, know yourself, and, you know, what is something that you can start your day with. Start a routine. Most of us have a morning routine, so that's very important to have some kind of routine. And you could even write it down. In fact, I have procrastinated writing down my own routine, and I need to do that, like, probably today. So I think it's important, you know, to write down a routine and write down times of day. If you don't do it perfectly, it's fine, you know. It's just so that at a certain hour you can, like, think, okay, I have that task. And having a task or having an activity, even if it's a passive thing, even if it's like at 1:30 I'm going to lay down for half an hour and take a nap. Just so that you know that at 1:30 something is going to happen. Or at 1:30 I am going to get on my exercise bike for an hour. You know, it doesn't matter. It's just so that you have a schedule and your brain can say, okay, at this time I'm going to do that thing for this long. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is not about being perfect. This is about getting through the day, and day after day getting through the day. So hygiene was another component, and this is personal hygiene, and it doesn't have to be extreme. You can, most of us have a morning hygiene routine, just so that it's part of a routine. And if there's a day where you're like, I'm not, like, I'm just too depressed today to wash my face, then you know what? That's okay, because tomorrow's another day and there'll still be hopefully soap and water for you to bathe. And, so it's just, again, like, just have something. And the point I'm trying to make is have it be conscious and mindful. So, like, when you go to wash your face and brush your teeth, probably a good time to just turn your phone off, turn your alerts off, and take a break from the news and just focus on that. The other thing is to keep some part of, in this case it was a cell, right? So it was to keep some part of your space clean. It doesn't have to be extreme. You don't have to like do your windows every day. But in this particular thing I read, it was about keeping like a corner clean. So you could translate that to serve whatever need you have. Do you want to just start simple? Wipe down your kitchen counter. Just have that. Have that be one definite thing you do in the day. And that's the point of this. It's like have a definite task. Maybe you don't need to wipe down your kitchen counter because you do that anyway. It could be like, once a day I will dust my windowsill. So it doesn't have to be a big deal, but it needs to be structured and it needs to be in your routine. So just, you can pick something very basic. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to empty out my basement and do this like 10-hour project, because what I'm driving at is maintenance over a duration of time. And you need to have some things in place because we don't know how long social distancing and this crisis, quite frankly, is going to last. And so what you're trying to do is build a foundation for some structure, some things to do, so that like 4 months down the road, if we're still in this, that okay, I can go dust my windowsill. And it sounds silly, but it is something. So I know I've like talked a lot and I am getting really tired. I myself have been very up and down and very stressed, and I am in this with you. We're not alone in this. I have a different set of circumstances than able-bodied people, but I just wanted to start with a few things that are about staying present in your day. And I think it's important that when you do your routine things, these really basic things, it's that is a time not to be checking the news. Like, that is a time where you're like just focusing on wiping down that counter, you're just focusing on wiping down that windowsill, whatever, whatever little thing you pick. And then I'm going to share one thing, and then I'm going to have to stop this video because I'm actually getting very tired from speaking. Um, the other really important thing is to look out your window. And I would invite you, we live in a very connected digital society, that's a given, but I would invite you to permit yourself some boredom. If you have a window, which most of us do, I hope, you can just sit in a chair or lie in your bed and just look out the window. Give yourself some time, like I'm going to look out my window and have all my alerts off and not look at the news and not, turn everything off. And you can say, okay, I'm just going to do it for 1 minute. I'm going to try it for 5 minutes. I'm going to try it for half an hour. This is about looking outside, looking at the sky, looking at trees if you've got trees out there. Just look out your window once a day at least and try it. Try to have that as part of your daily routine. You could set a time aside. You could say, I'm going to look out my window at 6:30 p.m. when it's dusk and dusk is settling and the sky colors are changing, and I'm going to have my tea or not have tea, and I'm just going to look at the sky for 5 minutes and have that in your schedule. So I can expand on all of these in different ways, and I'll do that in later videos, but I would invite you also to permit yourself to be a little bored right now. We live in a culture, many of us in society, where the message is you have to be doing something every second all the time, no matter what. Look at your phone, look at your computer, and part of getting through isolation is to be with yourself a bit more, and it's challenging. Being bored and being quiet can be quite challenging. So that's a little bit what this is about as well. Because at some point, the things that distract us, whether it's cleaning out the basement or emailing people, that's not going to fill the need for social connection. That's not going to fill the need to feel fully human. It does fill a need, but I'm talking if this goes on over a period of time, at some point it's just not going to nurture you the way you need as a human being. That's my opinion. I'm not saying get rid of your contacts. I'm saying take breaks. Be bored with yourself for a few minutes every day. See what that's like, because that will allow your system to kind of resettle, and it will help your mind to clear a bit. You can gain some different perspectives, perhaps. You can remember some fun things that happened when you were younger, So please give yourself permission to be bored. And I'm